Van Heis! Welcome to week number 4 of virtual learning. This week we're going to be getting into fibers. And as some of you remember from last year, fibers are things that are made up of stringy materials. So things like yarn or rope or fabric or sweaters or sometimes even plants are made up of fibrous materials. So anything that's got stringy type feelings to it, we would say that that is fibrous. This is a good example of a piece that was woven on a loom. Each of these is kind of like a separate little rug, and we've done some weaving in, we've done weaving in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. Normally weaving is that pattern that we do where we go under something and over something and under something and over something. We like to stick to that pattern, and you weave on something called a loom. And normally at Van Heis we make looms out of bits of cardboard, but I'm going to show you a really cool way to do some weaving or knitting at home without a loom, and we're actually going to be using our hands. Some of you may have heard of this before. It's called finger knitting. And with finger knitting you can get a really cool long knit design that can have a lot of uses. So without further ado, let's start on our fiber adventure with some finger knitting. Okay, so for finger knitting, the first thing that you want to think about is what type of material you're going to use. Here I have two different types of yarn. One is thicker and one is thinner, and from what I have found, if you have access to something that's a little bit thicker, that makes it a little easier to do finger knitting. But the thin stuff will totally work. I'll also attach a video. If you don't have yarn at home, I will attach a video that shows other ways of making string or yarn at home using some other stuff. So, I'm going to keep my yarn on the spool. I'm not going to cut it. So I'm just going to take my big mess of yarn, I'm going to set it over to the side. I'm going to pull some out, make sure that I've got maybe a couple arms lengths or so at the ready. And since I am right-handed, I'm going to be using my left hand as my loom, and I'm going to be weaving using, or knitting using my right hand. So, whichever hand you write your name with, that might be the best hand to be doing the knitting with. So the first thing you're going to do is take the tail of your yarn, and I want you just to hold it right here between your hand and your thumb, and keep it pinched tight. Then, some of you are going to be very familiar with this little weaving pattern. I'm going to be pretending that my fingers are like the strings of a loom. And when we use a loom, remember that old pattern, we go under, over, under, over. Just like that. And back again. Under, over, under, over. Do you see now how it looks like each of my fingers has one little stripe? We're going to send it back, and I want each of those fingers to have 2 stripes. I'll show you what I mean. Under, over, under, over. Back one more time. Under, over, under, over. Okay. Try to keep those little stitches separate from each other. Now it looks like each of my fingers has 1, 2 stripes. There's a bottom stripe and a top stripe. Now, that was kind of step 1. Step 2 is starting your finger weaving chain. I'm going to start with my pointer finger here. I'm going to grab that bottom stripe, the one closest to my hand, and I'm going to tug it up just a little bit. You might need to wiggle your fingers to loosen it. Then I'm going to bend my finger and slip it underneath that one just like this. Whoosh. And then on the back, I can kind of pull tight. And guess what? I'm going to do that for every single one of my fingers. Grab the little bottom yarn, slip the finger underneath. Grab the bottom, slip the finger underneath. Whoosh. Grab the bottom, slip the finger underneath. Whoosh. Okay, then I like to give my fingers a little wiggle as I tighten it in the back. Alright, next we're going to start to do our under-overs again. Here we go. Under, over, and back again. Under, over, under, over. And look at that, each of my fingers has 2 stripes again. Grab the bottom stripe, put your finger under it. Tighten it all up. Now, after you've done this a few times, maybe 2 or 3 times, you can then let go of the string between your thumb and your hand. That no longer needs to be held on because it's already nicely connected down here. Doesn't look like much now, but let's keep going. Over, under, over, under. Okay, here you can see I've got a nice woven chain here. It's almost like a rope. It's almost like we're taking this yarn and turning it into a rope. Now, you can make these a lot longer. In fact, here's a really long one that I made earlier. But I'm just going to finish mine off right now so I can show you how to end this. So once it's at a length that you like, here's the trick. You're going to keep this extra string, your weaving string, separate, and you're going to pull all of the loops up near the tops of your fingers. And I'm going to start with this finger right here, my pointer. I'm going to take the loop off my pointer and loop it around my middle finger. Then, just like before, I'm going to lift up my bottom stripe, fit my finger underneath it, and tighten it up. Now I'm going to take the loop from my middle finger and put it on my ring finger. Grab the bottom stripe, go underneath, tighten it up. Now last one, can you guess what I'll do? Off my ring finger, onto my pinky, grab the bottom stripe and go underneath, tighten it up. Now it's time to cut the string, so I'll take my scissors, keep that little tiny loop that was around your pinky, and I'm just going to feed this string through, this yarn through the loop. Just like this, and tighten it all down. Zoop, zoop, zoop. And there you have it, your very own finger knit chain. Now this could be something like a very stylish bracelet. You could tie it to the back of your pants and pretend you're a monkey, and it could be a tail. Or this could be something that you put around your head like a headband. It could also be just, you know, some kind of fidget or something that you play with. Or it could be, oh I know, it could be a little, a wig for Scaredy Squirrel.
Wow, I sure do look beautiful wearing this finger-knitted wig.
You sure do, Scaredy Squirrel. Send me a picture of what you create at home. I would love to see your finger knitting creations. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.